Hey, how you doing, everybody? It's Phil from New York Rocks TV, and we're rocking down here at Amendment 18, formerly Dock Street. And I'm sitting here with no other than Peter Barron, guitarist and local from this area now. But let's talk about where you're from, where'd you start out, and how'd you get started in music? Go ahead.
Sure. Hi, what's up, Phil? Okay. How I got started in music? Well, I've been playing guitar since I'm 5 years old. I grew up in Greenwich Village on Sullivan Street, and I was in a choir when I was, my first musical experience, I was in St. Anthony's choir, and I did it just to get out of school early, really, but we actually ended up really liking it. And the church had such a beautiful organ. I mean, the sound of this organ, the pipes were like, they had to be 60 feet tall, and there was 60 of us in the choir, and they would play all this heavy Gregorian chant, and we would sing the midnight masses and things like that. And it was like a show when they would unveil statues. And
How old were you then?
I was like 7, 8,
That's in
9.
West Village.
Yeah, West Village on Sullivan Street. So that was like a real experience for me, to being in the choir, and but just playing guitar, loving guitar, and teaching myself how to play at a very young age, and also the experience of growing up in Greenwich Village, and where back then, I mean, everybody was playing there, and all these coffee houses. Right. And I remember as a kid looking, there was a place called the Night Owl, and my friends and I, it'd be like 20 of us running around the village, and we'd look in the window of the Night Owl, and I saw Jim Morrison on stage with the Doors, playing in a place that was as big as Amendment 18, smaller even, and it was a coffee house, no bar, and they'd have a yellow sign hanging out. It'd say the Doors, or the Grateful Dead used to play there, the Rascals.
Where was that place located again?
It was right on West 3rd Street and McDougal, right around the corner from the Cafe Wa. And the Cafe Wa, you pass by and you see the sign, Jimmy James and the Blue Flame, Jimi Hendrix, and so you had all these great coffee houses that we were too young to get in, but we would go look in the windows, and you could see them from there. The Byrds, they were playing there. I remember seeing them through the window, and stuff. So, and Bob Dylan lived on McDougal Street. I used to see him walking his dog all the time. So there were lots of people around in Greenwich Village, which that became a big influence on me musically and art-wise and culture-wise, and that ultimately was how I met Leslie West. And I was in high school, and I attributed it to all of about growing up in Greenwich Village. I had a stand in a feast back then, and I used to.
You're Italian, right?
Yeah, I'm Italian. So but I had a taco stand. Now, I was the only taco stand in an Italian feast. So back, when I'm in high school and I'm making like $5,000 in 10 days back then during the feast, and I'd be on the street, till late at night, and we'd sell sangria and tacos and empanadas, and I was hustling, and my grandmother would cook, upstairs. I'd be bringing chili down to the stand and everything, and then at the end of the feast, I'd go and I'd buy all guitars and amplifiers and spend all my money on equipment. So I always had like a lot of Marshall amps and a lot of great guitars.
What's your favorite guitar, or the guitars that you like the most?
My 1957 Black Les Paul 3 pickup, was my favorite, and I have a 56 Les Paul Jr., but I have my own guitar line made by Carmine Street Guitars, and I have a few of them.
They're very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I designed them, and I have my name attached to it with Rick Kelly, who built them. But coming from the village, I had a guy come by my stand. I used to practice in the afternoon and bring an amplifier to my stand when it was slow, and after we did lunch, and I practiced. So some guy came by, and I was a young guy. I was only, at the time, I was 17. I was just at the end of graduating from Stuyvesant High School, and he came by and he goes, "Wow, I'm a drummer. We should get together and jam." I'm like, "Okay." So we'll get together and jam. So he calls the studio.
What was his name?
The guy's name?
Yeah, the guy's
His name was Zippy. Zippy, and I haven't seen him since then. So, but anyway, he was a drummer. He was a few years older than me, and he had called a studio, which was a studio called Charles Laing, and I had heard Mountain used to rehearse there, and West Bruce and Laing, and West Bruce and Laing was together at that time. So,
Were you aware of Mountain?
oh yeah, I never saw them. I never saw them live, but I loved them, and I knew all their songs as a kid, learning how to play.
He was down at Woodstock, right?
Well, I wasn't at Woodstock. That was before. Yeah, Leslie was there. Yeah, I was too young. They would. My parents wouldn't let me go, and thank God they wouldn't let me go because that place was like mud and rain and everything else. But
well, you're still alive today. So
oh yeah, but so anyway, so he calls the studio for us to jam, and Leslie West answers the phone. And of course, I didn't believe them because they were huge. They were stadium act at the time. They were doing baseball stadiums and coliseums, and they were just Fantasyland, rock stars, everything. So he goes. So he calls the studio, and Leslie was sitting in the office. He answers the phone, and they start getting into a conversation. He tells him about me playing guitar, this and that. Leslie tells him, "Bring him down. I want to jam with him."
Zippy must have thought highly of you. Because,
I guess, yeah. And Leslie must have thought even higher because he hired me, But I wasn't looking for the gig. I've never played a club before that. I was playing church dances. I was playing high school dances, church dances, and stuff like that. So he comes back to the stand, and I just met this guy like the day before, and he tells me, "Oh yeah, well Leslie West, he wants to jam with you," like real calm, and I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like, I, of course, didn't believe him. And he's going,
it was going to be a rehearsal.
Well,
much, right?
what it turned into was, I didn't want to take a chance that he wasn't going to be there. So I left my taco stand and went with my guitar to Charles Laing. I walk in the door, sure enough, there's Leslie. He's there, sitting down, and he goes, "Play me something." So I start playing him one of his guitar solos, like from the just thing called the Dream Sequence, which I knew he would, and he got a kick out of that, and he left. "I don't want to hear that. Play me something else." So I did a fast run up the neck of the guitar, and he was like, "Okay, great, wow, okay." Going to back, there's Felix Pappalardi, Corky Laing, Mitch Ryder, all these, some other celebrities that were back there. Tells the guy who was playing guitar, get off the guitar, plugs me in. Okay. Now I'm playing with Corky Laing, Felix Pappalardi, Leslie West.
What was your first show?
In Evansville, Indiana, in a coliseum. We headlined the first half of a festival, and Stevie Wonder did the second half. So I was having breakfast with Stevie Wonder in the morning. It was like, "Yeah, pass me the salt." Sure. I was at his table with his wife, his kids, his mother. So I gave him the salt, and so I got on playing.
What year was that now,
That was 19. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, but you look fantastic.
Thank you. But yeah, we don't want to say what year it is. But if you research it, you could find it out. But anyway, so I go and now running down all these songs, which I knew, Mountain and West Bruce and Laing. And I'm doing, Never in My Life, and Love is Worth the Blues, and The Doctor, and Mississippi Queen, of course, and Roll Over Beethoven, and a bunch of other things. So, and that was it. And he nod to me to solo, and I solo, and okay, cool, great. All right, that was it. Ran through everything once, a bunch of songs, which ended up being the show, and that was enough for me right there. Like, talk about Jukebox Hero, Stars in Your Eyes, all that stuff. I left there, I was like floating. I go home, he calls the house that night. He gets on, my mother answers the phone, and it's Peter there, So he goes, "Who's this?" He goes, "Leslie." Okay, he asked me, "You want to come to Japan?" I was like,
now,
"What?"
Let me interrupt. How old were you around that?
17.
Age?
17.
You got like kind of high, brought into the band when you were 17.
17.
And,
yeah.
So
I celebrated my...
Tour. You were on like
oh, yeah, we played Kansas City Baseball Stadium. We were playing with all my favorite bands night after night.
Yeah.
Only most of them, like I was waiting online to buy tickets for most of these bands as a kid.
Few that you opened for?
Well, no, they opened for us. Humble Pie,
Oh, my goodness.
Peter Frampton, Three Dog Night we flip-flopped with. T-Rex was opening for us. Focus,
Only
Sammy
if I had the
Hagar.
camera then. If I would have had the camera.
Only if I had a camera then too. I just have, some. I thought that was never going to end. We did Stevie Wonder, the James Gang. I mean, in the James Gang, they wanted me to play with them in the worst way, and I turned them down. Sent them every guitar player I knew, which I should have played with them. We played the same venue Led Zeppelin played the night after they did. So we stayed in the same hotel. It was Cobo Hall in Detroit. So Zeppelin they were staying in a hotel, and of course Led Zeppelin. I mean, me, Led Zeppelin. I love, So, and Leslie comes to my hotel room. He goes, "You want to go see Zeppelin tonight?" I was like, "What? Yeah, sure." Backstage, I was on stage for Zeppelin, but and then the next night we played the same venue, and it was sold out. 20,000 people, like Madison Square Garden. I was a kid in a candy store. I mean, they were much older than me, but I had they gave me the limousine to run around with, and I looked for anyone that was remotely my age to hang out with wherever I was with them. We played with Three Dog Night. We played with who else?
You played with Kiss, didn't you?
Oh yeah, Kiss twice. Yeah, and I played with Kiss with Leslie, and I also played with Kiss with my band. We opened for Kiss right after Kiss Alive, that first live album came out. Played with them in Asbury Park, and.
You ever play with Vanilla Fudge? I heard they played.
Well, I played with Cactus.
Oh yeah.
Cactus, yeah. I was a big Cactus fan as a kid. And I just played with Cactus 2 years ago with Corky Laing, and we played.
You ever play with the Ramones?
No. I never played with the Ramones. I'm really not that into punk
music. That was
music.
the punk scene, but
no, I never played with the Ramones, but
they were on the east side. You were on the west side.
I played with Squeeze. Yeah,
Squeeze.
Well, Ramones were
still around.
the Ramones were from Queens, actually. Squeeze. I put them on their first gig in New York.
Wow.
The manager asked my manager at the time. I was playing a place called Haraz, a great club in Manhattan.
That's with your band now.
Well, my band, and then my manager came up to me and said, this band is here from England, and the manager asked if he could put them on, and the manager's a friend of mine. I said, yeah, okay, sure. Who are they? What's their name? Squeeze. Okay. I put them on, and I introduced them. This is Squeeze, first time in America. I had Lou Reed introduce me that night, which was a little cooler than me introducing Squeeze, was to have Lou Reed introduce me. And I played with Lou Reed, too. Rick Derringer, who else? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember that much these days. So
it's just like so much history. You have so much history. You've seen so much.
Billy Joel.
Part of the whole scene.
Billy Joel too. I played with Billy Joel with my band at a place called My Father's Place in Roslyn, right before he kicked off, and it was. I remember everybody saying, "Oh, Billy Joel's here." I remember the voice and the piano, but I was involved with. I had an agent from William Morris come down that night that I was showcasing for, so I was talking to him. This was in between Leslie West tours. I had, this is early, and it was in between tours with Leslie, and but there was nobody in the place.
Wow.
I mean, I remember Billy Joel's voice and him with the piano and his band, but there was nobody there. There must have been 30 people in the place. So I told Liberty DeVito that story recently when we were there. I says, we played together back in the day when you were with Billy Joel. And no, he don't remember. He's got a whole career with those guys and after and everything. But Sammy Hagar opened for us a lot, and I never saw him play. We always got there after he played. And I'd say, who's, Sammy Hagar? Who's this guy, Sammy Hagar? Sammy Hagar. He was on. He was like the opener for a lot of shows, and of course,
he's been around for a very long time.
Yeah. He's. But it was a real charge for me to have Peter Frampton open for us. I'll tell you that, because I was a big Humble Pie fan as a kid. I used to go see them at the Fillmore East. Oh, and I played with Frampton. Yeah, I played with Peter, and I almost ended up in his band twice, and. Which that's a gig I really wanted to play, and I would have played with him like years ago before Frampton Comes Alive, but I couldn't play keyboards. And I was hanging out with him all the time. We used to go over each other's house and everything. But I thought, I loved Humble Pie, of course, when he was with them, and when we with Humble Pie, when we were playing with Humble Pie, and we would flip flop. We did Toronto. We played Varsity Stadium, which was like to 70,000 people, which was a trip. And I got to play with Steve Marriott in a hotel room. Me, Steve Marriott, and Leslie. Leslie playing bass, and me and Marriott playing guitar. And they had these 3 backup singers at the time called the Blackberries.
Right.
And the Blackberries were all sitting in bed. I wish I had a camera. You know,
You told me this. You started telling me this story.
that story was, they were all dressed up in satin skirts and like green and red and blue.
Maybe
Like,
there was a photographer there. They got some
oh, there
pictures.
was photographers there. I'm looking for like live footage of the Wild
Tell
West show.
everybody, because if they watch the interview, maybe
Yeah,
somebody out there.
if you
has it.
find any video footage of the Leslie West Wild West show or around that time, I would love to have it. If you can get it up on YouTube or
Yeah.
Facebook me, Peter Barron, Baron.
I know you have a big passion to find that. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You brought that
I
up
mean,
to me a couple of times.
We did a live album. There's a live album, a bootleg live album that was out that was recorded at one of the shows in Detroit, which I heard, which I have. There's 4 shows that I have. We played the Arthur Ashe Tennis Stadium to 35,000 people with Sly and the Family Stone. Yeah, that was
Now
cool.
it's all coming
And
back. It's
who,
coming back.
and who opened the show was, which I didn't know who the Lemmings were,
Yeah.
but the Lemmings, Corky Laing recently told me, he goes, do you remember who opened for us at the at Arthur Ashe? I'm like, no, because he was hanging out with Gilda Radner at the time, and I said, no. He goes, the Lemmings. I'm like, who were the Lemmings? It turned out to be Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, John Belushi. It was the whole Saturday Night Live crew, and they were the opening band. Or opening act, I should say. They did a comedy thing or whatever they did. I think Steve Martin was with them too, and which was a trip. And but yeah, this Arthur Ashe, I have a recording from. You know, it's primitive in its sound, but the vibe is there. Also, we did Central Park in New York. We did a big concert there. We did the Philadelphia Spectrum and Arthur Ashe. Those were, and 2 shows at Convention Hall Asbury Park, which is now called the Paramount, and we sold out 2 shows in one night, and that was great too. So I have photos and stuff, you know, but from back then. But then through the years, of course, I've been back and forth with Leslie like many times. So
Yeah, but you built a nice relationship up with him. That you could do
yeah,
that.
and
I mean, not too many people can do that. You know?
especially with him, he's a hard
Yeah.
guy to do that with.
You know, a lot of people they leave the band,
Yeah.
they never go back, and
Yeah.
it's like better. There's like really bad. blood, you
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
sometimes.
he treated me like a younger brother or a
Yeah,
son, you know, always
that's
treated
cool.
me like a kid, and it was always generous with me and always took care of me
Right.
and always made sure I had someone assigned to me when I was underage and, or, you know,
Yeah.
when I was younger, that no one would get near me with drugs and things like that. He had to, you know, so my hotel room would be next door to, and he would tell me not to, you know, don't take anything from anyone, make sure, and, you know, so they used to watch out for me, and it was cool. And then I was in, you know, other Leslie West bands with many different musicians. Dino Danelli from the Young Rascals. I was in one, and Buster Cherry Jones, and I've been back playing with Leslie again now the last 3 years, and so this has been on and off with he and I for a long time. Corky and I have been together too, and I've been trying to get those 2 back together again, but there's a lot of water under the bridge with those 2 guys. So, but you know, I'm glad to be playing with him at the height. I was glad to be playing with him at the height of his career, and I'm glad to be playing with him now in his later years, and he's still packing them in, but he doesn't feel well these days. You know, he's missing a leg, diabetes, and but he's, you know, he's the guy, man. You know, I mean, his guitar playing,
Legend.
yeah. So, and you know, I have my band.
You have solo work. You did a lot of, you did a couple albums.
Oh
solo
yeah, I have
albums.
three albums and and about 200 recorded songs. But the 3 albums, one is called Love Valley that Eddie Kramer produced, who did do Led Zeppelin, all my favorite bands.
Yeah.
He did Frampton Comes Alive.
You write all the material, and did you
Oh yeah, I sang and wrote everything. And Love Valley was on Kibble Records and Kibble Epic Records, and Eddie Kramer produced that and engineered it. Who's a legend.
Yeah.
You know, it was great to work with a guy like that in the studio.
With all the greats.
And I have my Active CD, Baron Active. It's a little different. It's like a modern rock CD. And I have my one that I just finished called Vampire, which is a rock opera. And we're going to be performing it in April 2018 in Manhattan at the Cutting Room, and we're going to we're trying to move it up the ladder, like sort of like a Halloween Trans-Siberian Orchestra deal, and that's my thoughts with it. I'm not hell bent on vampires or anything. Don't ask where it came from. It was like one of those lightning bolts, but it has orchestral pieces written by Frankie D'Augusta, who was also the engineer from Frampton Comes Alive,
It's like a
and I'm in
concept
You.
album,
It's a
like
concept album. And Frankie wrote the orchestral pieces. I have Art Stoya doing the narration, which is over the orchestral pieces. He has a voice that makes Vincent Price jealous. So yeah, it's very cool, and it's going to have a lot of musicians, you know, cello players and female
And that's
backup
coming up?
singers. Yeah, we're doing that April 28th at the Cutting Room, and then I have
April 28th.
Halloween booked there too, October 27th. But I'm talking to the St. George about it, the Sellersville Theater, to do all around Halloween next year. And I also toured and played guitar and recorded with Joe Lynn Turner from Rainbow.
Joe, I love Joe. He's great.
Joe's great.
Carl Cochran, you know Carl?
Yeah, I know Carl. Sure, I took Carl's place, and then
Yeah.
you know, before Carl Carl was out with. No, Carl's a good friend. Right?
Yeah.
Carl went out with. He was
Ace.
out with. I think he was out with Ace.
Yeah.
At that time. This is later, not when he was first with Ace, but and then I think he might have played with. I don't know if he played with Widowmaker too, because I took Al Petrelli's place, who did start Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and with Joe Lynn, and we just became great friends. And Joe,
He's a really, really sweet guy.
yeah, we just played together at the Sellersville Theater.
They came on my show, Carl and
And Joe.
Joe together. It was just like boom, 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 put the
Yeah.
guitars, boom.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, they're professional. They were
Yeah.
just like,
Oh, Joe's,
they
you
got
know.
it right down pat.
Yeah, they're
the
great.
whole thing.
Joe's just he's a live wire, and
Hoboken.
he's on my
From New Jersey.
he's on my Love Valley CD too. Joe Lynn, he's on that album. Yeah, he co-wrote one of my songs and sang on it with me. It's called Jaded.
Okay.
And then Aerosmith came out with Jaded. But
Yeah.
anyway, they stole my title, but that's okay. Yeah, like minds or great minds think alike, however they
Right.
say that. But anyway, yeah, Joe just called me from Prague the other day.
Still out there.
Yeah, Joe's over there, and he's going to London. He's actually probably there now and doing shows there. And yeah, we'll do stuff together and play. We get together and do shows sometime, and he comes up with me a lot. There's a lot of footage on YouTube if you Google my name along with Joe Lynn Turner's, or my name and Corky Lang's. We had a band called K2, which I am playing here tonight with K2. Only tonight I have T.C. Tolliver from the Plasmatics and Joe Lynn Turner's band playing drums with me, and Chris Tristram from Great White playing bass, and Ken Sadati from the Corky Laing band on keyboards. And then I have my other, I like doing different things. So that's why I'm doing Vampire in its entirety as Vampire. I have, you know, the K2, the mountain thing that I do, which I enjoy playing those songs. They're just great. I love them, and I love singing them and playing them. And I have my band, The Thunder Farm, Peter Barron's Thunder Farm, which is all over YouTube also. And that's where I do all my, you know, my original stuff. And in The Thunder Farm, I have Paul Morris from Rainbow and Ingwie Malmsteen and Trans-Siberian Orchestra on keyboards.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I have Joe Nerve on bass, who plays with Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses. And I'm dropping a lot of names here, if you haven't noticed. But,
It's
you
hard
know,
to-
it's
it's amazing,
yeah.
the history.
We're all out
It's
there.
like, oh my God, so many great musicians and legends,
Yeah.
and there's so much history behind your whole story. It's like, yeah, it's
Thank you.
amazing. And the thing is, you're from Staten Island now. You live
Yeah, I
here,
moved
right?
out here, yeah.
So, but there's so much, history of local New York City music scene.
Yeah.
from you, know?
It's
Been told,
I'm a New
people
Yorker
need to
and
find out
Staten
about it.
Islander.
You don't get to hear that much, you know.
Well, I'm glad to be playing
Yeah.
for my friends. I love to play for my
so
friends
proud.
and stuff, and we'll have
And they're calling you.
yeah. Come on up. I'm up here.
That's the cue.
That's the cue.
cue.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
time to go
it's
on.
great. It's great
But
talking to you. It's great.
thank
This
you,
is-
Phil. And finally, we got
Yeah.
a chance to do this.
Yeah, you
and
know, I wanted to speak with you. all the
thank you.
time. But tell everybody how they can find out more about Peter Barron and what's
Okay.
going on. And then, somebody's going to come through right now. So let's.
My website is, peterbarron.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I list stuff there where I play, or Facebook, Peter Barron. You could
Right.
Facebook me, and I list stuff there. And upcoming is April 28th at the Cutting Room. I mean, there may be some things that pop up before
There
that. And yeah, but cheers. Have a great evening, weekend, Christmas, Thanksgiving, everything.
Yeah.
So, all right, and
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you very much for the wonderful interview. And you know what, Peter? Keep on rocking, man. You rock, man. Who rocks better than us?
that's right. That's it.
Nobody.
We're gonna be
Nobody.
rocking tonight.
We rock the best, right?
We rock the best. Come on down. Or if this isn't live though, right? You're not streaming. It is live.
Well, not live, but
Okay,
it's
so
gonna be. It's gonna
all right,
be.
because I'd say come on down here tonight and come on down. We'd be rocking. Ow!
That's a song right there.
That's
There you go. All right, you're watching New York Rocks. Thank you very much, and peace out, everybody.
Thank you.
Peter Barron.